Joining me now for more on this developing story is Zolan Kano-Youngs, Homeland Security reporter for the New York Times. Zolan, thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
I wanted to first ask you about McAleenan's tenure, his accomplishments. I mean, during his 6 months on the job, he largely delivered what President Trump wanted down at the southern border, right?
Yes, you have to remember the time in which Kevin McAleenan assumed the position as the head of the Department of Homeland Security. Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen had just been forced out of the position by the president, who was infuriated over the number of border crossings occurring at the southwest border. In May, there were about more than 144,000 enforcement actions at the southwest border. Now look at where we are. Those apprehensions have declined by more than 60%. Things have relatively calmed down at the border. But at the same time, there was friction between him and the president and White House advisor Stephen Miller, known as the architect of the president's immigration agenda. In the end, Kevin McAleenan, while he did bring border crossings down, he did take issue with some of the initiatives that others around him wanted to push.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? I mean, what are some of those initiatives that he was a little bit more resistant to during his time?
Well, you may remember that earlier this year, there was a push by particularly the White House, as well as Mark Morgan, who was leading ICE at the time, is now leading Customs and Border Protection, to launch a nationwide sweep up of migrant families who had recently crossed the border, the ICE raids as they were called at that time. Behind closed doors, Kevin McAleenan didn't want that to happen. The idea that the president would cut State Department aid to Central American countries. This was somebody, Kevin McAleenan, who believed in addressing the root causes of the reasons of which people leave Central American countries. He believed in State Department aid and was disappointed when that was cut. At the same time, Kevin McAleenan did oversee the Department of Homeland Security when some of the more aggressive initiatives were implemented and expanded.
He was an acting secretary. He was never nominated for full confirmation. I mean, what's the impact on the Department of Homeland Security to be without a permanent head for so long?
Not just him either. You have to look. So the head of the Department of Homeland Security, him, acting position. Head of USCIS, Ken Cuccinelli, acting position. Mark Morgan, the head of Customs and Border Protection, acting position. Head of ICE right now, Matt Albence, acting positions. And what that has done to the agency, if you talk to career officials in the agency, it has created a sense where there is an instability of leadership right now. And remember, we're also talking about DHS, and DHS was created in the wake of the September 11th attacks, and it was not created to be solely a immigration enforcement agency, which many would say is what it has become under President Trump. And it is responsible for many things outside of that, whether it be cybersecurity, disaster relief, as well as securing the country and information sharing in regards to terrorism.
Any ideas about who might be tapped next for the Homeland Security job?
There's a lot of names that have been floated. I mean, it's well known that individuals like Ken Cuccinelli and Mark Morgan display the rhetoric that pleases the president. Let's remember how they got the job. They went on Fox News and advocated for the president's policies. I mean, previously, a vacancy act that we thought would be strictly followed. However, we've been told that there were rules changed by the White House with the cooperation of senior Homeland Security officials to make it so that it would not need to go to the next person in line. That would be right now David Pukowski, who is the deputy secretary, who is in an acting position. The president is going to choose who he's going to choose. I can tell you, though, whoever he does choose, I think it will be a while before that person's nominated, if they're nominated at all.
Zolan Kano-Youngs of the New York Times, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.